Hello students. So today's topic is reacting masses and volume. So this is the third topic of the first unit of IB Diploma Chemistry course. So the objectives. So this topic enables the students to apply their learning to solve the questions of reacting quantities, limiting and excess reactants, theoretical, experimental and percentage yields. They can use Avogadro's law to solve problems of reacting volumes of gases. They can use ideal gas equations to solve problems. They can explain the deviation of real gases from ideal behavior at low temperature and high pressure. They can use titration method to calculate unknown concentration of any solution by using standard solution. Now what you need to take care in this subtopic, that you can find the values of molar volume of an ideal gas in the latest IB chemistry data booklet in the section 2. So you should be familiar of the IB chemistry data booklet. Now the ideal gas equation is also available and the value of gas constant also available. The units which you need to take care, so that is gram per dm cube or mole per dm cube are the concentration units, and sometimes parts per million for very minute concentrations. They are used for expressing the concentration, and you must know that the square brackets are used to denote molarity or the concentration. Now the TOK which is related to this subtopic is like, how does mathematics become a language to represent the quantities of a substance, because we are using mathematics in this unit to calculate the problems and the real life connections in this subtopic. So gas laws helped in effective use of gas balloons for meteorological purposes. So you know hot air balloons we use for meteorological purposes to predict weather and to understand the weather. So that's the real life connection. So moving further, the keywords in this subtopic is limiting reactant, Avogadro's law, standard temperature, standard pressure, molar gas volume, ideal gas, concentration, titration, equivalence points. So these are the keywords of this subtopic. So we start with a question, so that we get the feel of like how we will do the calculations. So for example, you are given 20 gram of magnesium ribbon and you are burning it in air. Normally it burned with white light. So here nothing to do with that, it is just an information. So calculate the mass of magnesium oxide formed in this reaction. So the magnesium oxide is forming, you are given the mass of magnesium which is 20 gram. Now how to go about? So first thing which we need is the balanced chemical equation. That is the first thing you need to frame. So 2 mg plus O2 gives 2 MgO. So it is a balanced equation. Now what we need to do, we need to use the molar mass of magnesium and MgO in this. So we can use that molar masses according to balanced equation. So here balanced equation is a key, and calculate the mass of magnesium oxide formed. So Mr of magnesium, from periodic table we can get the relative atomic mass and write it in the form of molar mass, which is 24. Mr of oxygen, which is 16, so this is 16 gram per mole. And MgO means magnesium plus oxygen. Magnesium is 24 plus 16 is oxygen, so together it is 40 gram per mole. So 1 mole of magnesium oxide is 40 gram. And in the balanced equation you see there are 2 moles, so that means 40 times 2. So that's how we calculate the molar masses. So according to the balanced equation, if we check, because 2 moles of magnesium are there, so 2 times 24, so that is 48, and here 80. So according to balanced equation, 48 gram magnesium forms 80 gram magnesium oxide. Hence 20 gram magnesium, which is given in the question itself. So 20 gram magnesium will form how much magnesium oxide? So that we calculate by cross multiplying. So 20 times 80 divided by 48. So it becomes 33.33 gram. Thus 20 gram magnesium will form 33.33 gram magnesium oxide. Now you must be thinking why we didn't consider oxygen. We did not consider oxygen because oxygen is not a limiting reactant in this reaction and it is in NF. So if you read 20 gram magnesium ribbon is burnt in air. So there is no amount of air or oxygen given. That is why oxygen is not limited. It is in enough amount. So that is why we only consider magnesium and magnesium oxide in this reaction or in this question. So moving further, what is limiting reactant? So the limiting reactant is the one which is finished earlier than other reactants in a reaction, and that is why it is called limiting reagent or reactant. As soon as the limiting reagent finishes, the reaction stops and no more products form, because you need both the reactants for reaction to continue. Only one reactant can be limiting in a chemical reaction, because one is limiting and another is in excess. So always calculate the amount of product by using limiting reactant. So this is very important step. Like if there is a limiting reactant in the equation, then you must form the product by using limiting reactant and not the excess reactant, because the reaction will stop as soon as the limiting reactant finished, and that is why there will not be any addition of the product in the reaction. For example, 20 gram magnesium, I just reframed the earlier question to consider the limiting reactant. So 20 gram magnesium burns in 10 gram of oxygen to form magnesium oxide. Now here the limit is there, that means we don't know yet which one is a limiting reactant, either magnesium or oxygen. So we are given with the mass of oxygen. So 10 gram oxygen is available, 20 gram magnesium is available for us to react, and to form magnesium oxide, that is we need to calculate which is limiting reactant and how much magnesium oxide is formed in this reaction. So how do we do this? So firstly, the very important point is, first we write the chemical equation and then we balance it, because this will not be given. So magnesium plus oxygen gives magnesium oxide. Now because it is not balanced, so we need to balance it. So 2 Mg plus O2 gives 2 MgO. I know this is simple, you can do that. So this is a balanced chemical equation. Now molar mass of magnesium is 24, again from the periodic table, and molar mass of oxygen is 16, that is again we get from the periodic table. So molar mass of MgO we have just calculated, 24 plus 16 is 40 gram per mole. 48 gram magnesium needs oxygen is equal to 32. How do we say that? Because 2 times magnesium, 24 times 2 is 48. 48 gram magnesium needs 32 here, because O2, 16 times 2 is 32. So 48 gram magnesium needs oxygen is equal to 32 gram. 20 gram magnesium will need how much? So we just suppose it is X amount. So we need to calculate this X. So X is equal to cross multiply between this 20 and 32, and 48 will be in denominator. So X equals to 20 times 32 divided by 48, and this comes as 13.3 gram. You can calculate, check it whether it is correct. So we need basically 13.3 gram oxygen. But did you check the question? I said in question how much oxygen is given? 10 gram only. That means our need is 13.3 gram, but we are given only with 10 gram oxygen. So if it means that we are given less oxygen than our required amount. So oxygen is a limiting reactant here. So we reach to the point that oxygen is limiting reactant. Now as we discussed that we need to calculate the product using the limiting reactant, not the excess one. So magnesium is excess reactant in this. Now we need to calculate the mass of magnesium oxide formed. So again use the balanced equation and only compare the limiting reactant to calculate product as informed to you in the steps. So we use that 32 gram oxygen, because O2 is 32 and 2 MgO means 80. So 32 gram oxygen forms MgO is equal to 80 gram. So 10 gram oxygen will be formed how much? X amount of MgO. So X equals to cross multiply again, that means 80 times 10 divided by 32, that means 25 gram. So that's how we calculate it. I hope you understand this. It's not that difficult. Moving further, Avogadro's law. So what is an Avogadro's law? So the equal volumes of all gases have equal number of moles. This is the Avogadro's law under standard conditions of temperature and pressure. That is a key information. The equal volumes of all gases have equal number of moles, but what is necessary? That standard conditions of temperature and pressure. That is very important. Now what is standard temperature? So standard temperature is 273 Kelvin or 0 degree Celsius, and standard pressure is 100 kilopascal, or you can say 10 to the power 5 Pascal, is one or the same thing, but units you need to take care according to the question. Thus 1 mole of each gas at 273 Kelvin temperature and 100 kilopascal pressure will have 22.7 dm cube, and that is why it is called molar gas volume. So 22.7 dm cube is called molar gas volume. Numerically, volume is directly proportional to number of moles. So V is directly proportional to S N, and V equals to K, and this proportionality constant is K. So for example, if 1 mole of O2 and 1 mole of CO2 are there, so how much volume they will have? 22.7 dm cube. Okay, so at 273 Kelvin temperature and 100 kilopascal. So molar gas volume will be the same for 1 mole of gas, be it oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, hydrogen, or any other gas. 1 mole of every gas will have 22.7 dm cube, provided what is there? 273 Kelvin temperature and 10 to the power 5 Pascal or 100 kilopascal. Okay. Now moving further, ideal gas. So ideal gas, the hypothetical gas, because there is no such gas available. All the gases are real gases actually. So there is no ideal gas as such. So any such gas, if it is available, the hypothetical gas which obeys gas laws as per the equation. Which equation? The ideal gas equation, which says PV equals to nRT. PV equals to nRT. So that is ideal gas equation, where V is volume, P is pressure, T is Kelvin temperature, N is number of moles of gas present. Now moving further, real gases, as I told you, like carbon dioxide, nitrogen, hydrogen, helium, argon, all these are real gases, but they are not ideal. So real gases show deviation from ideal gas equation, because real gases do have some volume and gas particles also attract each other if compressed, which is unlike to ideal gas theory or ideal gas equation. So you can see this is ideal gas, the parallel line here, and all other gases you see there is no gas which is like parallel or close to ideal gas. So all these gases are depicted: nitrogen, methane, hydrogen, oxygen, CO2. So there is no ideal gas out of these real gases. And why they are not matching the ideal gas in this graph? Because the real gases have some volume and gas particles also attract each other if compressed, but it is like not the assumption which is used in ideal gas. Now moving further of this subtopic, that is concentration. So what is concentration? So it is the number of moles of a solute in 1 dm cube of a solution. Its units are mole per dm cube. The formula which we use is concentration equals to moles of solute divided by volume of solution in dm cube. So basically it is known as molarity. And this we use on and often, like in titration. So moving further towards acid base titration. So titration is an experimental technique to find an unknown concentration of acid or alkali if the other concentration is already known. So out of acid and base we must have one concentration. Okay, So the standard solution is the one whose concentration we know. So if we know any concentration of acid and base, that becomes a standard solution. And when the neutralization occur, we call it equivalent point. Okay, equivalence point when neutralization occurred, like whatever the volume we used and at which the neutralization occurred, the color changes according to the indicator, we call it equivalence point. An indicator is required to know the equivalence point or the completion of the reaction. So by the color change we can come to know like whether the reaction is complete or not. Now how do we do that? So the process is, the acid is filled in the burette while the base is filled in the conical flask. So this is conical flask, this is burette. Few drops of an indicator are mixed in the conical flask. So here you use indicator in this, okay, in conical flask. The acid should add drop by drop, or drop by, from here we need to drop. Why not quickly? Because then we will not be able to figure out the correct level of acid used. Okay, so that is why we should go drop by drop, so we exactly pick up the equivalence point and our readings are correct. So the acid should add drop by drop from burette to the conical flask till the equivalence point, which is clear by the color change. And as soon as we get that, that means the reaction is finished or the neutralization point has come, or the acid is neutralized by the base. So I hope this is clear to you, and that is here we are done with this subtopic. I used only the very relevant content in this subtopic, and this is highly precise. I made this subtopic in line with the questions which are being asked in past papers. So thank you very much for watching this video.